Hey guys, how's it going? It's Alexander Williamson here with the secret history living inside of your aquarium. Part of that secret history is passed down by other breeders and trial and error, but today what we're going to be talking about is what fish can live with what shrimp. And so basically we'll be looking at my tanks and then I might throw in a couple extras. So anything you see in my tank, clearly it's working for me. That doesn't mean it will work for everyone or that it works great all the time, but it means that for me right now, these situations are all working and I have shrimp with all of my fish. So basically, I'll first say off the bat, I want to get an image of the biggest boy in the tank, and that is a Lacunja crib from Cameroon, and it is probably a good 3.5, maybe even 4 inches long. He's pretty big compared to all the Corydoras and stuff, and he can easily fit a shrimp in his mouth. Now their temperament, unless they have a den and eggs, it's not geared towards attacking. So as you can see up in here, we've got neocaridina shrimp, and these are some Michelin shrimp, I think, that are just mismatched. I think they're golden bees mixed with blue bolts or black crystals of some sort. And so this tank has Caridina in it, and I have, you can see here, a wide variety of critters living in here. We've got everything from endlers and guppies to catfish, 3 different species of Corydora. We've got ruby tetras, which are definitely on my list. So let me just say, you'll be seeing in this video things that work for me. So these fish I've had live with shrimp pretty much no problem, or if it is a problem, they kill so few shrimp that I've never noticed the numbers go down. That being said, none of these situations, unless I say otherwise, are good for breeding shrimp. So breeding shrimp you want to have on their own, because any fish that shrimp fit in their mouth, they're going to eat the young. It's pretty much inevitable. Now, if you have enough rock hides and big enough gravel substrate or hidden features in the scape, like Dragonstone's a good one, the babies can hide, and some percentage, depending on how well you did that and what fish are in there, will survive. But that being said, I hatch all my shrimp in tanks, these tanks down here, and then once they reach about 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch, I'll let them go into these tanks. And one thing to note is, if you're letting shrimp go into a fish tank, a tank with obviously fish in it of all sorts, such as this one, which is a very crowded one at the moment. This is kind of a grow out tank for, we've got African dwarf cichlids, cribs. I am going to list the ruby tetra as one of the best fish to be in with shrimp, even with baby shrimp. I would also have to say that I think that endlers are a good choice. Guppies get a bit bigger, and endlers, specifically male endlers, are not going to take out too many because they swim in the mid-level to high-level water most of the time unless they're eating food. So if you keep them well fed, it's a well-planted tank, and I wouldn't consider this tank specifically well-planted. I would consider it mildly planted. But then there's spots for the shrimp to hide back up in places and filters up in the areas where there's a stash of them hanging out behind the heater. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and say that on the list, there's definitely ruby tetras. I like them a lot. Cory catfish, they work with adult shrimp, but with the babies, since they're scavengers, they're searching for that, and they will eat them up. Also, likewise, cribs will eat a lot of whatever is around, whether that's plant material or living creatures, and so I don't recommend cribs for the most part. Caridina shrimp seem to hold their own a little bit better than neocaridina shrimp sometimes, but a good sized cherry shrimp or blue dream shrimp, one that's something like an inch and a half or an inch and a quarter long at the high end of their size, they can pretty much fend off fish or get out of the way if they know they're going to lose that battle. So I have, again, here in this tank, we have leopard endlers, clearly with an adult blue dream shrimp. In here we also have a selection of blue dream shrimp, and so there's probably half a dozen in here of some lower grade shrimp that I just have living with. There's endlers in here, and the female endlers are going to be bigger than the males. Sometimes they can get up to double the mass or triple the mass of the males, so I just want to caution against that. But you can have a really beautiful display with shrimp and endlers if you just put adult shrimp in, and if you're going to have babies, give them hiding spots. That's always the case with fish. Now, just to show you the difference, check out all of these shrimp just lounging around, and this tank only has a few fry of endlers in it swimming around. It doesn't really have much else going on in there, and in this tank we have babalti shrimp, and they are pretty good because they can get away from things very quickly, but their babies are extra small. And so let's get a shot of a babalti shrimp here for you guys. So they can turn green and orange and all different colors, and they're a really neat shrimp. I got this one from aquaticarts.com, and you can see that orange in the internal organs and then kind of green going down the side. But they're like little chameleons in that they can turn tan or brown, or they can turn green, or they can turn this bright orange, kind of like those rocks, but more orange even than that color. And so they're kind of cool to watch, but their babies are even smaller, and they end up getting eaten pretty readily by even very small fish. So in this tank, we have no fish at all, and we have red cherry shrimp from Lucas Bretz, and they're doing great. These are a world-class grade that I got from LRB Aquatics, and they're floating around with not a care in the world because nothing's going to bother them. So if you want to grow your colony, this is the way to do it. You put down a substrate that keeps the pH a little bit lower. You want to put a little bit of something like crushed coral or chalk or some sort of buffer for your KH and GH and total dissolved solids. And that depends on the type of shrimp. Neocaridina, you want more. Caridina, some of them you want hardly any. But that's one recommendation. Another one that I've actually successfully raised are these rocket killifish. They're definitely on my list because I have Caridina shrimp in here right now, and they've been able to make babies with these rocket killifish swimming around because this is as low as they ever go in the tank usually. Unless they're running from each other or scared because I'm cleaning, they usually hang out at the very top of the tank, and they like this overgrowth cover. So unless the baby shrimp are up there in the cover, they leave them alone. Plus, I've got moss balls and rocks and places for them to hide. So I'm going to pause this for a second. We'll go upstairs and we're going to look at way more species, and then I'll give you the top 10 rundown in a bulleted list. But I just kind of wanted to show you what I'm doing with my tanks, and to show you that it is possible to have adult shrimp with crazy numbers of fish like this. So let's go upstairs. I'll talk to you in 1 second. Alright guys, we're upstairs now, looking around, and in this tank we've got Amano shrimp and Malawi shrimp. And Malawi shrimp are a little bit darker gray color to clear, and then Amano shrimp get quite a bit larger than the neocaridinas. They can get almost 2 inches, I would venture to say, 1.5 inches. And I think there's one back in here. It's not going to let me focus at that angle. We'll try to find another one. But there's about 6 or 7 of them in here. And as you can see, let's see if you can see, we've got plecos also living with them. if you can make that out. Let's try to see him down in there. Well, he's hard to see, but there's 2 plecos living in here also. And plecos are another great one that usually will mind their own business. Now, they may inadvertently eat some babies if you have babies in open water like this, but with this much rockscape and plants, the babies will hide in there until they're the proper size to fend for themselves, so to speak. So in this tank, as I said, Amano shrimp, they're better cleaners. They're not as colorful, but they are a more hardy shrimp for holding their own against any sort of fish attacking. That being said, you're not going to be breeding them because they only breed in brackish water that is partly salt water is what that means. So this tank, it's another example. Mostly guppies and a few danios are in here and some plecos and an autosynclus. And I will get back to that, but I would say autosynclus are my number one because they only eat algae and vegetation, and they will not harm your shrimp in any way, shape, or form that I have ever witnessed. So this tank, believe it or not, with everything in it and all these pack hunting tetras, is a great tank for shrimp. I've turned out some of my best reds in this tank. In fact, I grow them out in this tank intentionally. I don't know if dodging the fish and things like that causes them to have to grow faster and be a little more adept at things. But a lot of the day, they do hang out, I must say. Let's try to get this to focus in the light. They will hang out back in here. And I've provided lots of cover for them. And so in the daytime, it's pretty common just to see them down back in here. There's a red one back in there. There's a red really up in there. And so they hide. You want to give them enough cover when they do have big fish around. But as you can see, we've got Siamese algae eaters. We've got day or glow light danios. We've got orange-eyed lemon tetras, rummy-nosed tetras. We've even got some of these big old bruisers of pelvica chromis poultures, peacock gudgeons. Peacock gudgeons notoriously, in my life, have eaten a lot of shrimp, not necessarily to eat, but just to bite and to rip them off of branches and kind of harass them. So I would not recommend them, even though other people do. Also in here, ember tetras, they go with shrimp pretty darn well. You see how small their mouths are? That works out well. And these are neon green tetras. And for some reason, the neon green, in my experience, seem a little more docile than the neon blue. Plus, I think they look cooler because they have a green tint from, like a turquoise tint from certain angles, and then like a periwinkle blue one from other angles. So they're all kind of cool, but this tank is very heavily planted, and there also is a complete surface covering of sorts with a raft of plants that are just not rooted, and lots of sticks and things, and even lava rock in here that they can hide in the holes of. So there's lots of hiding spots if they are feeling stress. But it must be noted that no matter what, the last aquarium we're going to check out before I tell you the boom, boom, boom list right down the center. So here we have from Lucas Bretz as well. These are beautiful Sakura yellow shrimp and neocaridina species living on this diatom, the purplish red diatom algae, which I really like, so I'm glad that it decided to grow in the tank. But in here, we've got kind of a classic grouping of great pals for adult shrimp. So in here, we've got gold ring danios, 2 different types. We've got erythromicrons, which look like these. They look like these guys, which are celestial pearl danios, but they have stripes on them, but they're almost identical in other ways. And then we have young endlers. We have glow light danios, And then we also have, I'm trying to think, there's one or two other little critters in here. Oh, there's also an autosynclus in here, and there is also a pleco, a blue starlight pleco lives in here as well. And in this tank, I've been able to produce babies no problem. Well, I'm not producing babies. It appears we also have a couple Amano shrimp still left in here for algae control. And as I said, you could probably see there the size difference between the two shrimp. This is going to be my hatching tank for the yellow shrimp, but the other thing I like to do is they get pregnant at a far better rate when they're relaxed and they're not afraid of fish hunting them. But at the same time, I like to make these little rock forts for them where you pile up pebbles starting with this size here and working your way up to pea size, and then you work into like this size and then to this as a capstone, and then plant over that. And it really gives them kind of a labyrinth that the fish can't follow through after a little while. They can get about an inch into there if they try, but then any deeper than that and they get stuck, they turn around, they give up. So I just wanted to point out that in this tank I have successfully actually bred baby neocaridinas, and I would assume that I'm losing somewhere between 20 and 50% of the babies. You really notice a difference when you have shrimp alone. So other than autosynclus, perhaps young plecos, and certain killifish that hang out only at the very top of your tanks, there is no surefire way to pair fish with shrimp and have all your babies survive and not get eaten. So I just want to say that. But the fish that I think are great fish to pair with them as adults, is everything I've showed you here so far has worked out great for me. But let me just give you my list in order. So at number 10, I would say pleco. Plecos pose their own challenge in that they get very large. And as they get larger, they kind of siphon filter through the gravel or your substrate, your sand substrate, depending what it is. And they can suck up the babies and not realize it. They crush them between the bony plates in their mouth. So other than that, though, they don't intentionally go after shrimp, and most little shrimp get out of the way. Then I have, which is a broader category, but needlefish and hatchet fish that hang out at the very top of the water, or at least in the top third. They tend to be pretty docile and not really hunting down critters at the very bottom. And then let me silence my phone real quick. Sorry about that. And then number 8, I'm going to say the celestial pearl danios, which we saw over in this tank over here. And they're great, except for they're kind of little micro predators. And so other micro predators that you would want to watch out for if you're breeding shrimp are Dario, or that's more commonly known as the scarlet batis. Those are, even though they're teeny, they're not even an inch long, they are little hunters, and they swim through and they eat things that are small. And shrimp babies are very small. They're the size of an apostrophe or a comma on a sheet of paper sometimes. And if you have other species such as Bobalti shrimp, like I have downstairs, it's even smaller than that. They're like vinegar eels almost when they're born. So CPDs are great for adults, but you got to be careful with babies and give them lots of hides. But they're definitely coming in at a strong number 8. Number 7, erythromicrons, same deal. I think they're beautiful fish. They're subtly beautiful, and they let your shrimp be the stars of the show. Number 6, I have marble hatchetfish or silver hatchetfish on their own outside of the needlefish grouping, because I think that includes a lot of fish. Obviously, some needlefish get huge, but I'm talking about the smaller varieties in aquaria. And the marble hatchetfish hang out almost exclusively at the very top of the water. So they're kind of in their own little world, as are, and I'm putting this with them, killifish, like clown killifish and things like that, because, which I had downstairs and showed you, because they're kind of in their own world, and as long as you keep them fed, they're not going to really go hunting very often. Number 5 in the middle, we have Endlers, and I would say guppies too, depending on the strain. If it's got a flouncy tail that slows it down, like a big flared out tail, then that's a good choice. That they can't catch the shrimp as well, but also other fish pick on their tails, and so it's something to consider. And I would go more with the size, and so I like smaller Endlers. So I use Endlers, and usually I really like the neon green little tiny Endlers and the orange Endlers that are out there, and sky blue Endlers, things like that that are very small, black bar Endlers, things like that. So number 4, we have neon tetras, and that's green or blue. These guys here, and I just haven't ever personally witnessed them hunting down shrimp or pestering shrimp in any way. And I think part of that is if you have a red or yellow shrimp, they seem to get bugged less because I think in the animal world they're a warning color of either poison or danger. So there could be something to that. Now, completely out of the ordinary on this list, I have threadfin rainbow fish, and I think they're a great choice because their mouth literally cannot open wide enough other than eating the youngest baby shrimp. In fact, they would choke. So they've been a good choice. I've had them several times with shrimp. Currently, I do not have any, but the downside to them is they do get a little large, even though their mouth stays really small. If you ever look at them sometime, their mouth is smaller than like an ember tetra or a neon tetra even, and they actually can choke on food. So that's another little, you got to be careful with them. Second place, we have chili and lime, neon lime or green lime, whatever you want to call them, rasboras. So chili rasboras, Brigitte rasboras, exclamation point rasboras. All those teeny rasboras I'm grouping together, and those are great with shrimp as far as they're just small, and they will hunt the very young babies, but if they have a hide, young shrimp will hide in a rock pile. Check out my other videos to learn about that. The guy who hooked me up with most of these shrimp, Lucas Bretz, he's got videos about building hides and rock piles for shrimp as well, so shout out to him. Also, I want to say we're coming down to number 1, and my number 1 choice for a fish to live with shrimp would have to be the otocinclus. So the otocinclus is a very peaceful fish, algae eater. They're great on eating the algae in your tank. Right here is one of mine. Let's see if we can zoom in on him. He's kind of at a funky angle. But they're kind of cute too. I think they look like little puppy dogs with pot bellies sometimes. They're innocuous, they're gray, they don't get huge, they're not like the Siamese algae eaters that get pretty large and kind of aggressive with each other. But here you can see it just eating away, and I have never seen them eat baby shrimp. I've seen baby shrimp literally laying on top of them. So that's my list. If you have questions or disagree, I'd like to hear it in the comments. I feel like I gave proper warning on what you want to be careful about, and the fact that you may be able to have Oscars with shrimp. I don't know. I highly doubt it. Or bettas, but you're more than likely asking for trouble to have cichlids and things like that with your shrimp, unless you have your habitat built well and you're an experienced fish keeper. So that's my list. This is stuff that's working for me, and I hope it can work for you. So let me know how it goes if you try it. If you learn something, click like. If you want to follow and get up to date, more videos like this, more history videos, updates on what's going on in my fish room with my plants and my animals and my shrimp strains, trying to get rarer shrimp strains coming in, so that's exciting. And all that jazz, please, in the description, you can check out links to the Patreon page, which goes towards funding camera gear or updating things in the tank, keeping the fish alive so that the project can stay alive. And then obviously what you can do if you don't want to spare a buck or two, which I totally understand, I've been there, I'm there, is just subscribe, like, and share the links if they're useful to you on your Facebook groups or whatnot. And click that little bell, because now Facebook has changed things and you have to subscribe and then click the little bell to the right of the subscribe thing to get notifications. And under that, you can decide if you want all new video notifications or just some or whatnot. So that's the new Facebook or new YouTube system. And also you can join the chat on Facebook with this group as well and show me your fish and stuff. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you stuck with me this long, I mean, come on, I just gave you a half-hour entertainment. Now, what do you want me to do? So please like, subscribe. Love me, people, love me. All right, guys, well, I'll talk to you later. Take care of your fish. Take care of yourselves and swim on. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.